There are many things that can influence personal bias. A lot of times, most of the times, it's our own experiences. This is just something I think everyone should recognize in their life. First off, where do our opinions come from when we were young? They come from prominent authoritative figures in our life. Now, why prominent and authoritative? It's very easy to tell when children have parents who are present in their lives and also exude authoritative energy, where it's not demanding but commanding in their instruction. You don't have authority when you are demanding. You do have authority when you are commanding to your children, because children want to be guided. Children want to have a set of rules, even if children don't know if they want that. And these are usually the kids who turn out extremely polite, well-behaved, orderly, kind. And I say usually because, technically you could be prominent and authoritative and also teach your kids to be rude and misbehaved mannerisms and all that stuff. But that's usually the result of vacant and weak parenting. I also say figures instead of just parents, because it could be grandparents or whoever the main legal guardian is, perhaps, or maybe a nanny that spends more time with the kids than their parents. It's whoever the kids want to emulate their lives after, which is usually mom and dad, but it could be other people. So our opinions and the beginning of our bias begins with these figures. But how does it continue? At some point, you are going to be influenced by other factors in life, and this is just part of learning, part of being a part of society. Naturally, kids are going to start to avoid things that cause us pain, lean towards actions that cause us pleasure. We are going to change beliefs for a variety of benefits or reasons, whether it's popularity, maybe it helps with my friendships, money, success, etc. Once again, these are very determined by our own experiences of the environment around us, which we've already shown that experience is data, which is the beginning of knowledge, which is the beginning of wisdom. So if our biases directly come out of experiences, out of data, and our biases directly influence those, that means that our knowledge that we have usually directly comes from a place of bias. But there's some exceptions, such as like a teacher teaching you that 2 plus 2 is 4. That doesn't come from experience, that's coming from a lecture. That's, I guess, you are experiencing the lecture, but not in the same way in which you experience in the world a reality in which 2 and 2 become 4. If someone's just telling you it, that's not really an experience, you're just believing something that someone has told you. Which that can be influenced by bias, not because of the fact that that is an experience, but because the knowledge that someone's telling you, that could come from their experience, which then comes from a bias. And so if knowledge always comes from at least some source of bias, and if wisdom is determined by an objective, independent set of moral standards, which we have already determined in a previous video, it's kind of crazy to think about that what we deem as knowledge, comes from a place of experience, which is perceived in our bias, which means everyone needs to have the humility to accept that a large portion of what we believe could be either completely, fully, or partially false. As we continue on this journey, you'll soon find out that I did experience this at one point in my life, it's very scary when you come to find, oh, well, a lot of stuff that I believed in is actually false. And so how do we know if a piece of knowledge has been tainted by our own bias or someone else's bias? Well, we've talked about in previous videos how truth can be objective, that certain things of right and wrong, things of actuality, of physical reality, of observance, cosmic truths, etc., these truths are universal and thus cannot contradict. And if they are true, that means they have to be logical. They have to align with reason. If something, knowledge, you believe is true, can be debunked by a logical set of arguments, it's likely that your bias has somehow tainted your experience or data, which led to a partially or fully false piece of knowledge. So now what? I'm going to give you a logical set of arguments that you can use to prove some of your knowledge. I think the easiest one is the Aristotelian method of argument, which is asking questions. And it's super easy, everyone can do it. You kind of just have to know what the right questions are, but let me lead you through an example so you can sort of understand. What you're going to do in this now what scenario, you're going to pick a piece of knowledge that you believe to be true. Here's the example. The knowledge I'm picking: my mother loves me. So to use the Aristotelian method, you're going to ask a question. So first question, why do I think my mother loves me? And you probably want to just start the question with that, just knowledge blank, question, why do I think blank? Because I think a lot of times we actually don't know why we believe what we believe. But the answer is, why do I think my mother loves me? It's because she says so often. Next question. Can someone say something often and the opposite be true? Answer. Yes, people can lie often. But that is usually the case if their actions do not align nor support their verbal claim. Next question. What actions has my mother done to support that she is telling the truth when she says she loves me? Answer. She texts me, asking me how I'm doing. She provides me with cooked meals. Sometimes she changes my bed sheets when I'm here for a prolonged visit because she knows that I really like that, etc. You can keep going on. And you continue in that line of thinking until you feel like you have come to a very logical conclusion that's supported by evidence, in which I believe that the examples I gave is at least strong proof that my mom likes me. Now, if I had gotten to the question, what actions has my mother done to support that she loves me, and I couldn't think of anything, let's say if I'm thinking about my mom, and by the way, this isn't true, but let's just say she physically abuses me. She hits me, she yells at me, she degrades me, always says that she's disappointed in me, she makes me sleep outside in the rain, she sells my stuff, she ignores me, gives me the silent treatment all the time. Like, I don't know. Then, you would say the knowledge of my mother loves me needs to be readdressed. Notice how I don't say it needs to be changed to my mother doesn't love me, because that's not proof that your mom doesn't love you necessarily. But this is something that needs to be obviously revisited, because now you have created a logical argument that could support that your mom actually doesn't love you. So now you have your pre-based knowledge that my mother loves me. You have not been able to support that argument logically. So now the opposing side has a point. It has a place to stand on that, okay, this could be true. So now, using the Aristotelian method, you have come to the conclusion that you're unsure. So now what? You have to now go through more experiences with your mom from as much of an unbiased standpoint as possible to gather more data to turn it into more accurate knowledge. And a great way to do that, what I love to do, is to get an outside opinion. Find someone who can go through this with you, and then compare your experience to their perceived of what your experience is. And comparing that is very important. You're going to be able to see sort of how your bias matches up with their more unbiased situation, because they're outside the situation. However, obviously they're going to have biases in that based on their own experience, but as much of an outside opinion as you can get is going to be helpful. So if you, please think of something that you have as knowledge that you believe is true, and go ahead and test it with questions. And that's the video today. So I hope to see you all again really soon in the next one. Bye.